Today I'm going to show you how to wire up a fuel pump relay, and trust me, it's easier than you think. So in front of me I have the fuel relay I'm going to be using. It's easily available on Amazon, link in description below. It's affordable, they work, I haven't had any issues, but of course this guide will work for any 4-way relay on the market. So before you get started, just double check and confirm if your car uses a positive trigger or a negative trigger setup. So simply put, a positive trigger has power coming into the relay from the trigger source, and a negative trigger has power going from the relay to the grounding trigger source. Now my car uses a positive trigger, so that's how I'm going to wire it up in this video. Just a quick disclaimer, you really shouldn't be using these types of connectors. I'm simply using them for educational purposes to show you how this gets wired up. On a permanent install, you should be soldering and using heat shrink. So before I get going, I did print out some labels. This is just going to make it nice and easy so I can identify what wire goes where. So I'm going to get things started with the main wire. This is the 12 volt power in from your battery. You want to go straight to the battery to make sure we have a consistent 12 volts. Next up, we have the ground wire for the relay. This is either going to go to a chassis ground, your battery ground, or if you have a negative trigger, this is going to go to your ground trigger source. The next wire up is the trigger signal wire. So if you have a positive trigger setup, this wire will receive signal to turn the fuel relay on. If you have a negative, this will get spliced with a 12 volt power. And last but not least, this wire will send power to your fuel pump. Now, if you remember basic science, electricity flows, so make sure that your fuel pump has a good, clean ground, preferably dedicated to itself on the chassis. So I went ahead and labeled my connections. This way I know when I get to the car which wire plugs in where. And I also think it makes for a pretty good visual representation for those watching. And now we're on the car side. This just so happens to be my Mazda RX-7, but I'm using it to show you on my fuel gauge here that there's in fact zero fuel pressure when I turn the key to accessory, which means the relay isn't working and the fuel pumps aren't turning on. So you need to trace out your wiring, you're going to need your relay, you're going to need the fuel pump obviously, and a battery. I took the liberty to trace all the wires on my own time. I didn't want to bore you guys with that, but I did label them all so it'll be nice and easy to figure out where I need to connect on the relay. So to start off, I'm plugging in the ground wire that's temporarily grounded to the chassis. It's going to move after, just easy to show here. Next up, the pretty important one, we're going to plug in the 12 volt power coming into the relay. And now I'm going to plug in the wire that sends electricity to the fuel pump. And the final wire is the signal wire. So this is going to be positive trigger for me. As you see, when I connect it, the fuel pressure jumps up, this fuel pump is running, and the relay is working. You should be able to hear it humming down below. Now just note, all 4 have to be connected for this to work. All right, now it's all wired up. Let's just make sure it all works. So key to accessory, I'm getting power to my gauges. As you can see, there's some residual pressure, but pretty much zero at this point. I'm gonna turn the key to the on position, and we should see it jump up to 43, and that's it. If you see pressure when you're doing it, you have wired your relay correctly, you are good to go. Well, if you were following along, congrats, you wired your fuel relay. Now, if you found this content helpful, consider dropping a thumbs up, comment down below what car you're working on, and remember to subscribe.